Two, one. Hello, everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode of Last Best Hope for Conversation, your Babylon 5 podcast. I am Jesse Jackson. Joining me, as always, is my good friend Karen.
Hi, everyone.
Lou.
Hi. I couldn't get as high as Karen. But
Yeah,
I tried.
awesome. You matched me.
Yeah, there we go. We are continuing to go through season 5 of Babylon 5. Today, we are talking season 5, episode 7, Secrets of the Soul. I got a little bit of tired head when I tried to figure out what order things should be in. So just to be aware, we're doing in the order of the DVD set and Tubi. So we're talking
or not to be.
We're going to do Secrets of the Soul, and then next week we're going to do Day of the Dead. Secrets of the Soul originally aired May 4th, 1998. It's the 7th episode of season 5. This was an odd one, and I am looking forward to discussing this episode, directed by Wally from Leave It to Beaver.
Mm-hmm.
So, Lou, any quick thoughts on Secrets of the Soul?
Yeah, it was an interesting episode. I was pretty engrossed in the storyline, and then the last 10 minutes, I was going, where the hell is this going?
How about you, Karen?
I found it interesting and prescient.
Yeah.
And just a counterpoint to other storylines that we've had. So
I am not a fan of the telepath story. As I'm watching this, I see things that I like a little bit more and things that I go, oh yeah, this is why I didn't like this. So I'm really looking forward to breaking this one down. I did think it was cool that Tony Dow, all joking aside, recorded this. I guess he ended up having a very long career as a director.
Yep.
Which is
directed a lot of stuff. Quite a bit of genre stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, so I thought that was very nice, and I think he's done multiple Babylon 5. I did 2 things at Crusade, Deep Space Nine, 5 Babylon 5, and which I think is funny, he did Coach, 13 episodes of Coach, and so someone who spent growing up on a sitcom, I bet he was pretty good at that.
Yep, I'm assuming so.
Yep.
5 episodes of the new Leave It to Beaver, which I don't remember watching.
Or 2, yeah.
Yeah, so.
It was different.
It was bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so let's start with, I do think if I had to pick a highlight, I'm going to start with our dessert first. I think Zach and Lyta's discussion is something that as a fan, I have been saying a lot. I adored this conversation. I love how awkward Zach is, and I love how she is kind to him, but direct to him. As someone who has mentioned that his admiration for Patricia Tallman's acting has improved over the last few things we've seen, her thoughts on it?
I agree with you. That was a great scene. Unfortunately for me, she did isolated, in her acting range. Some parts of that scene, I thought she did a good job, and other parts, I just thought, oh, this is the Lyta from season 1 again.
Okay.
So it was a little all over the place for me. But I thought the scene was pretty good, and it was great for her to recite all the slights that have been done to her over the course of the series. And she has a very legitimate ground from which to make her decisions. She's being driven into becoming part of the telepath society, I guess you could say. At the end of the episode, things are a little more uncertain than when she started the episode. But it was a good scene. I just felt that some line reads were a little that's the old Lyta, and the other line reads were really good. So it was all over the place for me. And she's rocking another pretty good hairstyle.
I like her hair. I envy it. It's very straight and shiny,
Yeah.
which I would love to have.
All right, Karen, your thoughts.
Okay. I mentioned either in the last episode or the episode before that it seemed to be the end of Zach and Lyta's crush, right? That him arresting people close to her was the last straw for her. And I love that we get, I don't know whether it's a resolution to it, but at least a discussion between the two of them and a confirmation that Zach did have feelings for her. And he and Lyta, she's gone down a path that has severed that connection, even though I'm guessing he's still sweet on her. He wants her to be safe, whether that comes from caring about her or him being human. I don't know, but I do think he is concerned for her well-being. And I think he's ashamed during this conversation of how she's been treated as a proxy for all of Babylon 5, that she has gotten all this out. She has been mistreated and forced into things that she didn't want to do. And this has been what has happened to her over the whole course. She didn't want to deal with the Vorlons. She didn't want to come back and not have a job. She didn't want to join the Psi Corps. She's just been forced into all these things. I think this making a choice for herself is what is so alluring for her. And I do think there's some issues there, which we'll talk about later. But on the surface, this is definitely something that she has chosen for herself. And laying it all out there for Zach was really a stark reminder of what has been happening to her over the last couple of seasons.
Listening to both of you talk about this, she's going, I may be making the wrong decisions, but at least they're my decisions for a change of pace.
Yep.
I do love the fact that we have talked a little bit about this. I've gone on many rants about how they treated her. And I love the fact that it, unlike Garibaldi, where we wonder if JMS and the creative team don't understand what they're doing, in this, JMS is acknowledging, hey, we treated this character like crap, and I'm going to build a storyline out of that. Thoughts on that, Karen?
Definitely. I feel like he has more of a connection to the storyline because it's very relatable and believable to me.
Yeah. That
she would be treated like that in the first place, because we've seen things like that happen in real life. I feel these energies of what he's written.
Yeah.
I don't know. That seems, but
no, I get it. Lou, thoughts?
Yeah, it's high time that these are some of the character moments that we've been waiting for the show to give to us, and we finally got one. Still waiting on some interaction with Garibaldi and Sheridan and Delenn, but hopefully that will happen this season at some point.
Yeah.
I do think, and maybe this is a little offside or aside, but I find it very weird that the telepaths address the humans or the rest of the people as mundanes. That's such a derisive term. And if for a group of people that are trying to be assimilated into the Babylon 5 culture, like that, they're really setting up these barriers between themselves and the other people on the station. So, I just every time I hear that term mundane, it just really makes my teeth grate.
I don't think they are trying to assimilate.
No,
I think they're making it
either. They're
right.
saying they want to. Yeah.
And I think they know that's the only way they're going to have this space on Babylon 5, but I don't think that they are trying to fit in at all. I think they have other plans.
Yeah.
At least that's my thought.
But at the end of the episode, they definitely do.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. But yeah, that mundane term really grates me.
And I guess it is, I wonder if um, it is definitely considered a slur, but is it just been used so frequently that they don't even realize? Like, I will be careful here. I'm going to do a fun one. I grew up in Louisiana, and the Southwest Louisiana, especially the Lafayette, New Iberia, Opelousas, this middle part of the boot, Cajuns were called coonasses. And it was a
Okay.
term they used all the time. You don't have to hit this coonass in the face with a wet mop. We crazy coonasses. Coonasses make better lovers because they'll eat anything.
Oh
Um,
man. Wow.
I did not realize when I came to Dallas that the term coonass could be considered racist.
Sure.
All right, end of advisory. Let's put an
Yeah.
advisory warning
Well,
before this that,
all you're just stating something
yeah, yeah,
that is happening.
yeah,
For more relevance, Sean and I were just talking that's my husband, for those of you that don't
yeah,
know. We were talking last night about things that irritate me.
yeah,
And one of them is the lingering Karen nickname. And
yeah,
I find that a slur,
yeah. You're
to be
such a
honest.
Karen, right? Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
And it lumps us into a group of people that are not good,
yeah,
right? So I would use that as, it's not racist, but it is
yeah,
definitely a slur.
yeah. For people that there are some quote unquote people named Karen who are not on this. Yeah,
Yeah,
hmm,
me. I would say the majority of
yeah,
people named Karen are not quote unquote Karens. In fact, the term comes from someone not named Karen.
yeah,
So I don't understand why it's not whatever. I think it's Kate that it came
yeah,
from, right?
yeah.
John and Kate plus 8 is okay. One thing I wanted to say about mundanes real quick. I don't even think Bester uses the term mundanes, does he? He uses like normals or something like that.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah, I don't
know.
think I've ever heard him use the term. No.
Right. So Bester, who is a villain, quote
Yeah.
unquote, and I keep using quote unquote, but he's a villain and he's not even using that slur.
And I guess it is similar to like Muggle in the Harry
Yeah,
Potter
yeah,
world, right?
yeah, sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like, okay, boomer.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly. Yes.
Come
I
on.
get that a lot. All right.
I say that to my husband all the time.
Yeah.
That's a slur against boomers.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a slur against my husband, and I mean it that way.
Oh, okay. Ooh,
All
tell us
right.
more.
Oh,
Yeah.
come on. He is. He's cranky and angry at everything. And
Oh,
these young people and the women always wanting a guy with money. And
oh, get off of my lawn.
Yeah.
exactly. So
Yeah.
he is a boomer, definitely. I love him, but
Yeah. So I I want to get to I think the most interesting thing about this discussion is a couple things. One, Lyta and Byron becoming intimate and sharing the idea of telepaths. This it isn't just a physical bonding, it's a mental bonding and her fear about that. And I want to talk about that in a minute. And also the reveal that, oh my God, Vorlon's made us this way. But before we get to that, is there anything in this middle section with them being attacked, the telepaths attacking their attacker, Byron trying to take the high road, anything on that storyline, which candidly I thought was a little boring?
yep.
So that's why I want to give you guys a chance before I just skip over it. So, Karen, you mentioned yes. Is there
Yeah.
anything you want to share about that?
Okay, this isn't really a big deal in that storyline, but I think they're planting a seed with the stutterer telepath. He
Yeah,
is also a telekinesis telepath,
right.
right?
Hmm.
And this is something that is rare from what I understand.
Yes.
These are usually telepaths that have been altered in some way, experimented on, because we had that in another season 2 or 3 where Lyta was in love with the telepath who also had telekinesis, right?
And that was, ooh, this
Right.
is, yeah, it's very big.
Exactly. The fact that he has this telekinetic power, I thought was definitely planting some kind of seed.
Okay.
And the fact that Byron wanted to know how he has developed that. Because he said to Byron, look at what I've done. I've been practicing. So
Mhm.
Byron knew about it
Right.
and definitely welcomed him onto Babylon 5. And I think maybe he wants to use those abilities. Does he know Lyta has them? Who knows? And he might after this, right? After they connect.
Yeah.
That was a big question for me. That meant more to me than any other part of that storyline.
Okay. Lou, any thoughts on them getting beat up? Their Byron being disappointed that they're not turning the other cheek?
Yeah, it was almost like he made a reference to the fact that they've done this before, which is interesting. And I think like Karen's spot on about the one telepath who has telekinetic powers as well. I think that'll play something in the future. Again, the rules of how the telepaths work and the weird vibe that you get for the fact that nobody else talks except Byron continues to rear its head in this episode. And I thought, if they're telepaths, why can't he tell them to stop attacking these people? They should listen to him because he is the
Hmm.
leader and he seems to be
Yeah.
the most powerful telepath except for Lyta. Again, there's a little bit of mushiness about what the rules are here that I think they bend depending on what the story requires to happen.
Is he
And
more powerful though? My question. He
yeah,
hasn't proven that he's more powerful. He's just charismatic. And I think he got those overwhelming feelings, but I don't know whether he'd be able to send anything back to them. That was
well,
my thought, at
telepathy is
least.
a two-way thing, right?
I know, but you're, when a telepath walks by someone who's super angry, they get a huge vibe that they can't block,
Yeah.
whereas they can block people with regular emotions. And I feel like those other telepaths, when they were killing that guy, they
Hmm.
had emotions that were much higher. And so he could pick up on that
Hmm.
because they had this connection with each other and that was overwhelming. But I don't know whether he is powerful enough to override those emotions. That was
Okay.
my thought, at
Okay.
least.
Okay.
Yeah, plausible. But like I said, because we don't know the rules, it's
It's
conjecture.
murky. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's conjecture
Hmm.
on our part.
I agree with you. It's murky.
Yeah,
I'm just drawing a conclusion here.
yeah. And I was a little disappointed that what was the security guy's name?
Zach.
Zach
Zach.
gave up so easy on the second murder.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's to be an open and
Uh,
ongoing investigation.
although that dude was not a good guy.
Yeah, but
I
the
it
law is the
should
law.
be. I
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
I agree with you, but
All right. So we'll move on from that. Thank you, guys. I wanted to give, if there was a chance, if people did want to discuss that and have
Hmm.
something interesting. I just
well,
didn't get much of it.
I think there were interesting parts of it,
Yeah.
but it didn't have anything to do really with the fighting and the beating up and all
Yeah.
that stuff.
So I absolutely agree that, to me, this is, Lita has, as she explained out very clearly, she feels like she doesn't belong, she isn't appreciated, and because she is treated with respect and love by this guy, Byron, she's all in, right? She is feeling. And so they decide to go to the next step. I thought it was a very interesting about her sharing. It's almost, well, had um I've put on a few pounds, so before you see me naked, I need to tell you I have a beer belly and I'm not
Yep.
very attractive, right? Or I have this, whatever the issue she's explaining, because the Vorlons, I don't know what's going to happen.
Yep.
So you need to be aware this could be what is, right?
She knows she's different from other telepaths, so I think
Yeah,
that's valid, very
yeah,
valid.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Little creepy that the other
Mm.
telepaths watched on,
Yep.
going, "Hey, our leader's getting this intimacy," and I guess the
Dude,
idea
It was
that,
a
it
group
is a
effort.
cult.
yeah,
It
yeah,
is a
go ahead.
cult. Isn't that kind of cultish behavior?
Yep.
Yeah, and I think part of it is, at least to me, the idea that we're emotionally connected all the way. And there is this almost a nudist colony where we are all walking around naked. We just let our emotions fly. It is a little weird, I think. Karen, let's stick with you. Thoughts on this?
Yeah, I don't think they connected in a sexual way with her. I
Yeah,
think it was all emotional, which
yeah,
makes it slightly less creepy.
yeah,
I think it's weird, but I think it might be part of their culture
yeah,
that getting that connection, if people, other telepaths are around, they pick up on it. And again, she has strong feelings
yeah.
going into this, and maybe they couldn't avoid it.
Hmm.
Because Byron is also shocked
Hmm.
by what's going on. I also have questions about all that, but we can talk about that in a second.
Okay. Lou, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it was like this is where the episode got weird to me and somewhat uncomfortable with all those people watching them
Yeah.
having
Yeah,
sex. But if it was an intentional shot, then my hats off to Tony Dow. But the moment when Lita takes off her jacket was like, whoa, because everything was that room was dark and everything, and her skin is so pale. But
yeah,
Hmm.
then my second thought was, she doesn't wear a bra.
yeah.
Some women don't.
But so that was an arresting shot, and it was not something that have seen too much of in Babylon 5 to date. So that was, that was whoa, that this is, pushing the boundaries of that Babylon 5 normally doesn't run against. So there was that, and then the whole cult thing that was going on while they were doing that was pretty weird too. And it's too bad that moment for Lita was tainted by her history with the Vorlons because that should have been a moment of intimacy for her that really, to me, just undercut everything that the
Hmm.
connection that they were supposedly building. I mean, I didn't find it out of the blue that the two hooked up because there's been some movement on that front in the previous episode, so that was fine. But I felt really bad for her character in that sense about how that whole act led to what seems to be what's going to be the conflict for the rest of the season.
Yeah, so I'm gonna stick with you, Lou. Yeah, according to behind the scenes, he talked to both actors, JMS, asked about it. It's a quote unquote closed set. You do not have anyone who's not needed to be there. She did not need a body double, which I does not surprise me considering she started out in this business as being a stunt double.
Mm.
When her book, she talks a lot about that she's done a lot of stunt work. It was, this is, we have not had a lot of intimacy scenes. Is this the first one in Babylon 5? Have
Mm-mm.
we?
No, we've
No?
had other ones.
Okay.
I think Sheridan got it on with someone.
Did they
There,
show the intimacy scenes?
no, not them personally. They didn't show
Okay.
the two. They just
Okay.
showed them like going into the bedroom or
Right.
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
As they say in romance novels, going to black.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So I thought this was a little something different. I'm going to stick with you, Lou. First off, I'll put my thought. I do not understand why Byron is so upset that he has discovered the origin of telepaths, and it's the Vorlons.
Hmm.
And now then he feels like they're being used and he's angry about it. And I guess I get that, but I don't understand it because it doesn't matter how or why you got it. The reality is you've spent your whole life being a telepath. And I guess from his perspective, being a telepath is something bad. I get the feeling that it's similar. Oh, I was given an illness. I was given cancer by someone manipulating the genes, and they're the blame of why I have cancer. So it's almost like he's thinking being telepath is this something bad. So thoughts on this reveal, and how do you feel about it, Lou?
I'm totally in line with you there. For all the bluster, for lack of a better term, that they've been talking about how because this is where the mundane term comes in, right? They feel like
Yeah,
they're the superior thing. But in that moment, when he finds out about the Vorlons creating telepaths, it seems like he's actually jealous of normal people.
yeah.
So that's a weird thing. And then he wants to blame the normal people for their situation as well beyond the Vorlons, which doesn't make any sense to me at all. So that's I don't know how if JMS has been questioned on this, but it just it doesn't hang together. Obviously, you're emotional about something, logic doesn't is not on the top of the list, but still how he can how Byron can make the leap from Vorlons to blaming everybody else for their plight doesn't make any sense to me at all.
Karen?
Maybe because the humans were involved in the Shadow War. I don't know. And Sheridan did use the telepaths as like shields, human
Yeah.
shields. But anyway, here's my question. I need clarification on this.
Okay.
That vision, was she ever in a test tube like that? Or is she just getting a vibe from what she was when she was like working with Kosh and Okesh? That's
So
just one thing. So go ahead and tell me.
no, I don't. I think it could be both. I think we certainly could make the assumption that when they gave her enhanced abilities, when they upgraded her, that it could have been while she was in a test tube in this
Okay.
chamber.
Okay.
Or it also could be the empathy of all her being, this has happened to other people, and she in this thing, her mind is showing what has happened to other people, and
Through
she's seeing it with her
her
face. Yeah.
connection with Kosh and Allcash.
Yes.
Okay, so this might have been her and it might not have been her. Okay.
Yeah, and I do not know what the right answer is. And if
Okay,
someone
that's fine.
does, please email us and tell us.
No, that's fine.
Okay.
That's just one thing.
Yeah.
Is she seeing the past?
I think so, yes. I think
Okay.
what I read this as, or watched this, not read, is that as they're becoming intimate, that as her mind, he's seeing all these different scenes of what she's done and all the knowledge that the Vorlons have given her through this year. And so he's seeing it in different ways, almost like a dream.
Okay.
So that's why he's saying, oh, this is what's happened. Why
But my question is, this happened before. This isn't something that's happening now.
No, I do not think so.
And it seems to me maybe it's not something that happened when she was with the Vorlons either.
Yeah.
That she's just getting this vision through her connection with Cautional. That's okay. I'm not sure about any of that, and it confuses me. Part of me said, and I don't think this is true, but part of me said, is this how the Vorlons are going to live on? They created all these beings. Are they going to become Vorlons? And I don't think that's the case, but it was a thought that entered my mind when I watched it. I know there were all different races in those pods. I also was like, oh my goodness, did they implant her with a baby and then take it out and use it? Yeah. I had all these thoughts. Again, I don't think those are true, but it's very confusing to me.
Yeah.
I get that when Byron, after their coupling, Byron is understanding that it's them that were created in those test tube things. Mm-hmm. So that was really cloudy for me, that scene. And it's not even like they were planting a seed and I finally got it. It's what is going on. And then all of a sudden at the end, I was like, okay, whatever. So it was weird and confusing for me. And I did think that the scene was super awkward. And I really appreciate how she acted in that scene with, she had to put those black contacts in, which I know is uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And I think her expressions matched what was also happening, which we know she wasn't really experiencing that as an
Yeah.
actress. I did enjoy that part of it. Enjoy is not really the right word, but
Sure, I do.
yeah, it was a lot for me,
Yeah.
and it didn't have anything to do with them having sex.
All right.
Does that make sense at
It
all?
does.
Am I talking in circles?
No, I
No,
don't think so.
no, I agree with you. It's pretty murky. And the other thing that was bothering me about the sequence, and I realize that Lita's experiences are pretty powerful, but why didn't we not get any insights into Byron? Because this is a two-way thing, right? Like
Exactly.
Ooh,
why was it all
nice.
just from her perspective? And maybe that will come up later because of Lita's revelation is obviously supersedes probably anything that Byron's experienced, but still, it would have been a great opportunity to get a peek into Byron's psyche, and we didn't get that at all. But I understand in the particular aftermath, that revelation is pretty big. But for Byron to be who he is, some things have to happen to him as well to get him to where he is, and that was a missed opportunity. And I don't know, do we want to talk about the last moments now in
Please,
that
yes,
scene?
please.
We've already mentioned that he's blaming normal people for their situation, telepath situation, and then he makes the proclamation that if they won't listen to him, then we will make them listen to us. Which I don't know how you read that scene, but I got the impression that whatever relationship had been building up between Lyta and Byron, she's like taking a step back and going, "Whoa, this is not what I thought this was going to be all about."
Hmm.
Because I thought they were working on, and she's saying they're trying to build a family and coexist and everything, and now he wants to go to war. I don't know how that's going to sit with her. At least that was my read from what I saw on her
Okay.
expression.
Karen?
Yeah, I think she might have some trepidation about that. I think it's a missed opportunity as well. I think, and this is Monday morning quarterbacking again, or
Sure.
Sunday morning quarterbacking, as it were.
Yeah.
I think that they could have started the vision with something from his past, and then hers might have overridden it. And we would have seen like a little bit of Byron, and then all of a sudden we go into this Lyta thing because it's overwhelming his experience. I feel like they could have done it that way. I do understand that story-wise, they had to just concentrate on Lyta's. And I'm sure that can be explained away a million different ways, but I do think it would have been interesting to get some insight into what has gone on with Byron. Why now does he feel like they've been slighted and that them being changed or made into telepaths? That it would have been nice to see how he got to that, from what happened in his past to help
Yeah.
incite whatever is happening with Lyta. Why now is he upset? Because he does say we could have had normal lives, right?
Yeah.
And what's happened in his past now to have this confirmation that, hey, we're different. It would have been nice to be normal, that sort of thing. Anyway, that was weird, I thought.
Yeah, and so what I read this as is he's okay. I was going, please, sir, can I have another bowl of porridge? Oh, I'm not asking for too much. I just want a little piece of land here. And now he's going, I want my 20 acres and a mule. I want this. We deserve our own homeland. Um,
You think he came ahead of time what's going to
yeah,
happen, but I feel like he did not come on Babylon 5 for this peaceful piece of land. I feel
no,
like he definitely had more in mind, that this was a stepping stone for him.
I do not know. I got the feeling that he was not thinking that, and like I said, I have not rewatched a lot of Five, so there is a lot of this I have general feelings. Like,
Right.
oh, I vaguely remember what was happening with this, but others I don't.
I
So,
think it's a
yeah,
moot point now because we're
yeah,
not going to get
yeah,
any feeling of what he felt when he came on board. We're
right.
not going
Yeah,
to learn about that.
yeah,
We just know he's been incited to this violent path and it's going to
yeah.
escalate from there. We're never going to know what his initial motivation is for coming on Babylon 5, which it irritates me.
Yeah, I think a little bit of that is this whole, oh, before I was being, hey, I think this is really good for us we should be treated this way. And I think now he's a little more, wait a minute, I had this coming to me. My people have suffered enough for you. And so therefore I'm gonna demand more than this. I do think it's a little bit, I don't know, are there extra worlds just running around out there that Sheridan can go, oh yeah, here,
Zahadum?
let me just give you this world. Yeah, exactly, right? I think it's a weird kind of feeling. And so,
What about
um,
that planet next to them with the
yeah,
machine on it?
yeah, that we never talk about.
Right. That
Mhm.
doesn't have anyone living on it.
Yeah. And one of our emailers mentions um, going back to one of the earlier seasons where this whole planet was wiped out because they wouldn't admit that this virus, they were guilty that the virus came because you were unclean and
Right.
therefore they get wiped out. So that's a whole
Right.
planet that's gone.
Sure.
Someone brings that up. Anything
I,
else about our fun, wonderful telepaths?
I cannot believe that we've talked about this storyline so much.
Yeah,
That's my takeaway from
there
it.
we go. I agree. All right. So I do think this is now, um, this is the moment where Byron and the telepaths become they're actually an adversary now,
Right.
because of this. And so we're going to see how that goes.
Right.
All right. The other storyline is Franklin in his new role, which I'm glad that they're following up on this, where the idea that we need to, um, with all these races and all this thing, we need to get as much information we can and how we can take care of people. So he's doing a lot more work of this. We get a nice little scene with the Paklama. They can't, and is anyone who's ever had a CT
Oh,
scan or a barium enema, I appreciate the scene of them throwing it away. Any thoughts on, and this is an interesting storyline that we are going this there were two races on a planet and one of them wiped out the other one, and now it turns out, uh-oh, we actually needed them. Karen, let's start with you.
okay. Just dropping this in here. I have to get a CAT scan and an MRI every year.
Yeah,
And I do the CAT scan with and then without contrast.
yeah.
And sometimes I get an IV, but
Mhm.
sometimes I have to drink that
Yeah.
gross stuff. And they're like, oh, it's lemon lime flavored. And I'm like, no, it is not lemon lime. It feels like lemon lime that's been in a dump for 10 days.
Yes,
It's terrible. So I do feel for the Pakmara in that
yes.
case. I was saddened by the Hyach Doe storyline. I feel like it is reminiscent of the very Narn storyline a little bit.
Okay.
And I feel like also that Franklin is us in
Yeah.
that case, how he feels about what has gone down with them. And I was, again, it's a little thing at the end of the episode where he says, no, I don't want to help you, but hey, let's get together and we'll help you. It's almost in the same sentence when he says that. And I think I would understand if his reaction is, I don't think the Alliance would help you. I don't think we should help you. But there is this kind of, they're not the ones that wiped out the Hyach Doe. They are descendants
Yeah.
of those people, and they are ashamed of it. And so I understand his pivot there, that maybe they can help them. I knew, obviously, we know that there's something they don't want known from the very beginning. I was surprised at what
Yeah.
it was. And I thought maybe it was some kind of virus that they have,
Hmm.
denied having, and now they're infecting all of these people. But the fact that they wiped out another race or a offshoot, really, eh, I was angry about it. And I would have liked Franklin to just say, no, we can't help you. I get it. He's a doctor and all that stuff. But yeah, that I did like how it was manipulated, that they wanted someone to find out, but they couldn't outright tell him. And so they planted a seed. I think she planted this seed as in, hey, look deeper. I'll give you this surface stuff, but there's definitely something you should look into. And then she said to her assistant, she said, they wanted this to get out, but we couldn't tell him directly.
Yeah.
So I found that interesting as well.
Very interesting. Lou.
Yeah, like Karen, I was surprised at what the secret the Hyaks were hiding turned out to be. I do think that I'm a little conflicted about Franklin's reaction to their request for them to help. Morally, what a doctor believes should not enter the equation. You're there to help. If somebody's in medical distress, you should be helping them, regardless of how you feel about them. So that I didn't like that how he responded to them like that. I do think he was right in that they should admit the truth to themselves and just to clear the air, because they're carrying the sins of the father mantra that they were talking about there. And that they had a valid point, the Hyaks, that you can't hold us accountable for what our ancestors did. And that's something that we've seen in our world, where people who had nothing to do with the situation, but their ancestors did, and we still shun them or blame them for whatever happened. So it's interesting. It's a complex issue. I liked the storyline. I think it was just maybe rushed. The ending was rushed. That was a big reveal, a pretty weighty moral dilemma, and to handle it that quickly was. I understand the constraints of an episode and blah blah blah, but it just felt a little short shrift, and which is too bad, because that was a very interesting scenario, and I would have liked it to play out with a little more grace than how the show handled it. I got mixed feelings about it, but it was nice to see Franklin doing something different than what he normally does.
Yeah, this reminded me a little bit of the Centauri storyline where they wiped out a section of their another race. This
Yep.
also the one of the earliest episodes, that belief where Franklin goes against the parents' wishes, saves the child, and they end up killing the child because in their mind the child is already dead,
Yeah.
Right.
right?
Can
So
I ask you a question,
sure.
Lou?
Yeah.
Would you have preferred this storyline to be more prevalent in season 5 than the telepath storyline? I
No,
mean,
I
we
don't
know
think
that the
there's.
telepath storyline is going to be big.
Yeah, no, I don't think there's enough here for a season arc. Is that what you're asking? Yeah, no, I don't think there's enough there for that.
Okay.
But I just felt that it should have had more space for that final scene.
Yeah.
Because it reminds me a lot of some of the Star Trek Next Generation episode where the one race was addicted to a drug and the other race knew that they were, but because they had the raw resources that they needed, they kept the knowledge from them about that. And
Right.
that it was the same kind of moral dilemma that Picard had to face, whether or not he told the other race about the fact that they were addicted to something that if they went cold turkey, they could get off
Right.
of it. So that episode, I think, was structured around that storyline specifically. So it had the proper amount of time to do it. And here, you're wedging this storyline against the telepath storyline, and I think maybe this storyline should have had its own episode to breathe as
Yep.
well. But
Should have been two separate episodes with maybe
yeah,
a smaller B story
yep,
with each. Yeah.
yep,
Yeah, in my mind, it was a little rushed. I think, um, and once again, we are Sunday morning quarterbacking. The Franklin going, look, it's not my place to judge you, but understand to fix this issue, we are going to take a lot of resources and a lot of collective people working on it. And the only way we can resolve this is if everyone understands the full picture.
yep,
You need to ask, are you comfortable? You're going to have to go through it. There are going to be people who judge you,
Yep.
even though you were not the people who directly did this.
yep,
But that's a decision you have to make
yep,
because I can't do this just on the side. And then they could come back and go, they could even right there, we've talked about this and we thought that was going to be what we were going to have to do.
yep,
And now that it's out in the open, and I'm reminded a little bit, I think I've shared with everyone that I'm doing a West Wing rewatch. And I just watched an episode from season 3, episode 17, The U.S. Poet Lauder. I can't talk. And there, the scene is President Bartlett is going through a string of interviews, just one TV station after another. And there is a scene where he says something bad about his possible opponent, Governor Ritchie. And he says that Governor Ritchie is not very smart, just candidly, right? He says it more subtly than that.
Gee, I've
And
never heard of anyone doing that in real life.
and he said, and then the whole discussion was, oh, the president didn't mean to say that. He didn't know he was being recorded, blah, blah, blah. And by the end of the episode, CJ figures out that he meant to do that so that the discussion would be how smart is his opponent, right? The reason I'm bringing that up is I think this ambassador is, as you guys both mentioned, I can't say this directly, but if I
yep,
give you enough breadcrumbs, you figure it out, then we're forced to admit it. And because I do agree, if I have any nitpicking about this, is it is almost in the same sentence. Oh, you should be ashamed of yourself. I can't condone this. We're going to hold you accountable. You have to be punished. Okay, yes, we're going to help you.
In the same sentence.
Yeah,
Yeah. It was like, hello, what, can
yeah,
you turn around any faster?
I
And
agree.
I think the highlight of Kieran being the hard line about it, she's definitely not in on what the elders are saying to the ambassador.
Yeah,
And I do think that's a secret double handshake kind
yeah,
of thing that the ambassador knows. And she dismisses Kieran and then she says to Franklin that we are going to admit it. And apparently it's against the law. And I do like the line where he says, only the Hyach doe can forgive you.
yeah,
And it's definitely, that means no one can forgive you. You're not going to
yeah.
be forgiven for this.
Mhm.
I find that interesting.
Yeah, I agree. Anything else on this episode that we need to discuss? I think we covered everything, but I want to make
yeah.
sure.
I think, is this the first episode where Sheridan and Delenn were not in the episode at all?
Could be.
Or was Garibaldi in this episode? It's hard to remember when you watch two of those episodes
Really
either.
quick, what I will do
I have it.
is, okay,
Regular characters who appear in this episode are Stephen Franklin, Zach Allen, and Lyta Alexander. That's it.
okay,
Mm.
yeah,
That's the only regular characters.
yeah, okay.
So that was interesting.
Yeah, it
Mhm.
is. Yeah, different. And you
Where could
wonder,
they have wedged those other
yeah,
people in, though? There wasn't any room
Mhm.
for it,
No,
really,
Yeah.
right?
no, it was just an observation. I'm just,
Oh, yeah, I agree with you.
yeah,
and I know that if you remember, this is where the Claudia Christian part of it was they had to make the budget work. They had to give everyone less episodes so that we could get this. And so this was probably one of those where,
Oh, okay.
yeah, that not everyone could be in every episode. So that was it. All right.
And this was supposed to be Susan, right? Instead
Yes,
of Lyta.
Susan. Yes, they
Yeah.
originally were. Susan was the one who is going to be attracted to him. Yeah. Yeah, because
I
yeah.
think this adds another layer to it since she has had all these experiences and knows the
Yeah.
Vorlon thing and all that. So
Yeah, agree. All right, ratings. Karen?
I give it 6.5 Peters in the hallway with a lead pipe, like Clue.
I got it immediately and I
Okay,
loved
good.
it. Yes. Lou, how about you?
Ooh. I did like the Doctor storyline, but this telepath storyline just really weirded me out by the end. I'm torn. I'm going to give this one 6 barium barfs.
Ooh, nice. I'm right there with you guys. This is not a episode that, in fact, I think when I did a rewatch, I would have skipped this one. When I originally like when I'm just watching for fun, I would have skipped this one. Would have read the Lurker's Guide. Yep, this is anything I need to watch. So I'm gonna do 6 out of 10 cultural shames. So
Can I
good.
lower mine to 6 now then?
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, we'll all be
Yeah,
6.
because I
Yeah,
was being generous with 6.5, to be honest.
very nice.
So
Um,
what was the rating?
the P5 rating is 7.62
Oh my
on
goodness.
Lurker's Guide. Yeah. Mhm.
Again, they have hindsight. They've
Yeah.
seen all the
Mhm.
episodes.
And yes, I do not think this is in our feedback. We're going to get to under Lurker's Guide. They mentioned the Macarb races died out and
Okay.
what you mentioned, Zahadun,
Oh,
right?
okay.
Or
That
because
is.
they're gone.
Oh
Yeah.
no, that's the
Yeah. Yeah.
Shadow's
Yeah.
homework.
So, okay. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. What is the feedbacks? What do we got,
Yeah,
Karen?
quickly. This is Secrets of the Soul on IMDb is a 6.5,
Okay.
just so you know.
Good.
So I feel better after that.
Good.
We do have an email from Texas on the Shock about Secrets of the Soul. So how much responsibility do those in the present bear for the crimes of their forebears? If they keep perpetrating it, quite a bit. Such is the situation that the Hyach find themselves in. They exterminated an entire race and are now trying to cover it up. I find myself wondering when the cover-up began. I doubt Hyach of 800 years ago suddenly felt guilty after the last Hyach doe was killed. Okay, I'm sorry. I forgot something.
Yes.
When you ask a computer a question saying, when did these records go back to, it doesn't give you a range, right?
Yeah.
750 to 800 years. It knows when the first record was, right? Okay. Yeah, that was weird. Sorry. I'll get back to the feedback. And clearly it was known to the other non-aligned worlds if they had agreements with them to turn over any fugitives. So there didn't seem to be any diplomatic pressure as it was happening. But at some point, they began to feel such great shame that they purged all mention of it from the public record. This is the basis of the argument Franklin makes to them when he refuses to assist them. He later agrees, but that's only after they agree to stop covering it up and allow him to enlist the aid of the rest of the Alliance, because that's the only way they have even a hope of curing the Hyach's condition. This is another aspect of the original story JMS sneaks in. The Minbari were going to be stagnating, and they end the war with Earth when they examine Sinclair and realize he has something they can use to rejuvenate their race. Oh, that's interesting. That's why there seemed to be subtle romantic strings between him and Delenn in the early part of season 1, and also why the chrysalis change took place. She and Sinclair were going to get married and have a child. That makes sense.
Okay.
I'm glad it didn't turn out that way because I like where it went.
And that's one of Lou always talks about. He felt like there was a connection there.
And after that storyline finished, it's because he was the head dude.
Yeah.
And that's the connection they had. But I don't think that would have been part of that storyline. Okay, sorry. Speaking of people being changed, Byron learns the truth about the origins of telepaths, that the Vorlons created them to use against the shadows, and it completely shakes him to the core. It causes a marked change in his behavior, contrasting with what he did earlier with the belligerent lurker. That was possibly the moment that I was most on his side. He diffuses the situation, although in a very self-sacrificial way. He is a martyr, after all, and does it so that no one gets hurt besides him. And this is me interjecting. That's like a Christ reference, right?
Yeah.
They're giving him that Jesus vibe.
Yeah.
But now that's seemingly out the window. Where will he go from here? Time will tell. Until next time, Zooty Zoot. This is the Texas on the Shock signing off. Until Zaveni in Valen's name.
Zoot. All right.
Zooty Zoot Zoot.
Yep. And because we are doing more than one in this case, you already know what this
We
is
know
about.
what that means. Yes.
Yes. All right. Did we get any other, Karen?
Just that one, as
Okay.
far as I can tell.
I thought we got, let me look. No, that's it. Yep. You're right. I'm double checking our
Okay,
emails. So
good.
If someone wants to reach us and reach you, how can they?
I am at Eleveria on social medias. I have a blog, alliestuff.com. And if they want to send feedback like Texas and the others, it is jklb5podcast@gmail.com.
And Lou, anything on the Facebook page?
Facebook?
Or
Oh,
YouTube. God, I cannot
Okay.
talk this morning.
No. Somehow comments were disabled the last episode. I'm not sure what setting I messed up here, but I apologize for that. I've tried to update it, and hopefully that will correct the
Okay.
issue. If people want to comment on that on this episode 6, please do.
Okay.
It might be a good point to remind people that because we're doubling up episodes today, that means we're recording episodes 7 and 8 together. We won't get to do your feedback until we come back. Will it be episode 9? We'll be looking back at these 2 episodes then.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there'll be 2 weeks with no feedback. It's not because we're not reading your stuff. It's just that we had to double up on some episodes due to personal schedules. So
yeah. So just to pull back the curtain, we're recording this on September 29th. We normally record on Sunday mornings. October 6th and October the 13th, I will be traveling out of town. So we will be back on the 20th because I fly back into Dallas on the 12th, and I don't know if I'd have time to watch an episode before then. So we will be back on the 20th. We're spacing this up so we only will miss 1 week of posting. Thank you guys for understanding. I'll be in the Northeast looking at leaves and other fun stuff.
I can't wait to hear about it when you get back.
I am
you don't
looking
have leaves where you live?
not
like
leaves like
there.
the New England. Yeah, we're
Oh, yes.
Yeah, in Texas turn brown and crisp up, right?
Oh,
so
time of year.
It should be great. Okay, Lou, how about you? Where can they find you?
Of course, you can find us on YouTube at Lou's Reviews, where we host the Babylon 5 podcast along with our JKL Media podcasts. Also have my writers podcast and Stephen King podcast. And on the Twitter, you can find me at Lou W. Sytsma, Sytsma.
And I am at Jesse Jackson DFW on Twitter. You can hear me talking music on Set Lusting Bruce, where I have Professor Ken and Professor Ken joining me this week. They have written a book on an actual kind of scholarly look at Bruce's music that I'm excited about. That was a fun discussion other places. So for now, I want to thank Karen.
Thank you.
Thank Lou.
Thank you.
And we will be back next week to talk about one of my all-time favorite episodes of Babylon 5. So please subscribe. And if you could, go to iTunes and give us a 5-star review. It's been a while since we've had one. So thank you, listeners. Be safe, be kind. We'll talk to you soon. Goodbye.
Bye.